have that for future. Okay, so here we are on a wonderful rainy end of a big storm Wednesday morning for our mindful mat Pilates practice. And thank you everybody for being here today. Today, I would like to begin with the use of our chair and our roller. We'll work on some standing exercises today. We'll also use the chair to do a few things with our shoulders, and then we'll move down onto the floor. And of course, if there's anything, going on with your body and something that we do doesn't feel right, then just take a little break. It won't last very long and we'll move on to something else. And hopefully that something else feels good for you. So let me see here. I'm going to make a slight adjustment to my mat position, pull it back a little bit further. And what I'm going to set us up for is standing on top of the roller. So I'm going to be behind my chair, and then I'm going to put the roller behind the chair as well, right? And if you have a firm roller, if you have more than one roller, try to use the firm roller for this if you can. So just place one foot onto the roller. Make sure that you feel like you're in the right proximity relative to the chair. And then you can mindfully step up and place that second foot on top of the roller. And so I'll just pause here for a moment while we're all getting ourselves established standing on the roller. And when I get up and stand on the roller, what I want to do is I want to feel like I can stand straight up and down. And so that I position myself close enough to whatever it is that I'm using for balance and safety so that I don't have to lean forward. But I also don't want to be so close that I feel crowded and I feel like I have to lean backwards. So I put myself in the optimal position relative to what I'm touching with my hands. And then from there, what I'm going to try to do is find the most neutral spot in my feet where my heel drop and my toe drop feel basically equal. So my feet are just bending around the roller. And then I'm just going to stand here while you guys are getting yourself situated with my feet in this neutral position. Right. And what I'd like you to do is to tone that transversus abdominis muscle that you feel in your lower abdominal area, but also a sense of muscular tone around your waist that does not cause your rib cage to lift and flare. That's important, right? So stability does not cause the rib cage to lift and flare outwards. So just check in with that. So you kind of feel that tone, that a little bit of flattening here, and you also feel that tone around your midriff. And then the other thing I want you to do, see if you can find a way to engage your upper inner thigh muscles while you're standing on the roller. And just check in that that doesn't cause you to lock into your knees. Right? So just a little bit of upper inner thigh activation without locking your knees. Okay. So you feel very straight and solid. And then let's start to introduce movement in the ankles and feet. So the inner thigh muscles connect in a way with the transversus abdominis muscle to create stability through the upper leg, through the pelvis, through the spine, up towards the mid trunk, right where our junction is with our upper abdomen and lower rib cage area. So we want to feel that sense of stability as we work the flexibility back into our ankles and our feet. And when my heels are going down, I'm getting a really juicy stretch for my calf muscles. And when my toes are going down, that's when I feel the most unstable. That's when I really have to do some work to send my toes down over the front of the roller. And if I get ambitious with that, there's a possibility that I'll shoot the roller out from underneath my feet. So I want to take my time with that and just be mindful of how I roll. Now, let's pause in a neutral position and drop one foot off the back of the roller, still standing tall. Now, you can still engage that inner thigh line on that standing leg. You can still activate your transversus abdominis. And then we just focus on the strength, stability, and flexibility or mobility of that single foot and ankle relationship. And of course, well, not of course, you might not realize, but the action of your foot is also directly connected muscularly to the lower half of your leg. So from your knee down, you have muscles that are what are called extrinsic muscles to the foot. So they're not in your foot directly, but they have something to do with your foot, your shin and your calf, and also the inside and outside of that shin calf area. Now let's come back to a neutral spot with that one foot. Put the second foot back on the roller in a neutral position, and then drop the other foot off the back. Engage that inner thigh so you sort of feel that lifts you up, encourages a feeling of carrying oneself without feeling like you're lifting your ribs up off of your abdomen. So you're just sort of lifting yourself up off of your foot. That's the feeling that you want to have. The lift starts way down in your thigh. You're carrying yourself. So your weight is not collapsing into your foot. You're holding yourself up. And that takes effort. Let's do a couple more movements with that second foot. And then just pause and place that one foot all the way onto the floor. And then place the second foot onto the floor. And we can go ahead and set the roller out of the way and just give those feet, those legs, a little bit of a jiggle after all of that work. And then continuing to stand behind the chair, setting your feet up so that they are about hips distance apart. And there's actually a kind of a nice way we can do that. If we place the feet directly next to each other, so there's some contact between the inside edges of the feet, and then we keep the heels together but turn the toes out. And then we turn the heels out to align with the toes. That's about hips distance apart. You're pretty close, right? So if you're not sure, that's about where you should be. Okay. And if you got a little too wide with that, I think I got a little too wide. I'm just going to come in slightly. And then again, with that feeling of engagement through the midsection and lower abdomen, a little bit of lift in the inner thighs, I want you to slowly raise your heels all the way up off the floor. So not just a little bit, but really bring those heels up as high as you absolutely can, and then slowly lower those heels down. Press through the balls of the feet to bring the heels up as high as you can, and then slowly lengthen back down. Let's do that a few more times. Both heels together. And we want to sense the feet and how we're using both feet. Sense the calf muscle of the lower leg and how we're using the calf muscle. And now the next time you lift your heels, I'd like you to stay up nice and high on your heels. I'm sorry, on the balls of your feet. And just one heel at a time, dip down and then press all the way back up again. And then the other heel dips down and presses all the way back up again. Dip down, all the way back up, and dip and all the way back up without losing the tone in transversus abdominis, without losing the tone of the upper inner thighs. All the way up So you should feel a lot of work happening in your feet and in your lower legs. And when you feel even between left and right, pause and lower both heels down slowly. And then you can shake out those feet, shake out those legs. Now let's prepare to do a little bit of standing up and sitting down. I think I'm going to get rid of this bulky pillow for the time being. And when I sit on my chair, I'm going to sit on my chair on the exit portion of the chair, right? Which is where I just have the back portion of my pelvis where my sit bones are sitting uncomfortably on this wooden chair. I can sort of feel that boniness. I wouldn't want to stay here. It's not very comfortable. So, but it's perfect for standing up and sitting down. So, what I'd like you to do is again bring your feet together. So, there's a little tiny bit of contact between your feet, and then move your feet closer to the chair, but not so close that it causes your heels to lift up. Now, if you have really bony ankles and your ankles are bashing into each other, then what I want you to see if you can do is just without tilting your feet significantly, can you apply a little bit of pressure into the outside edge of your foot so that your ankles are a little bit more separate? Just see if that works for you. Okay. And then let's bring the arms down alongside the body. Just let them hang straight down without trying to pinch the shoulders back. So I want you to think more about keeping your arms just pinned to the seam along the side of your shirt with your hands so the palms are facing backwards. And we're going to see if we can work in this arm position. Okay. So with the feet in close proximity, a little bit of space between the knees, different from a V, right? We're going to slowly shift off the chair and just pause for a moment and feel that work. Whoops, my arms kind of dropped, arms alongside the body. And then slowly press up. This is really hard with the feet close together because that's a balance element. And then let's sit back down with as much control as we can muster, right? Now, if you have to touch the chair, you touch the chair. That's okay, right? So again, we're going to tip forward, shift our seat off the chair, pause, and then pressing through both legs equally, rising up to stand, and then reversing that and coming back down. Now, one of the things that can cause knees to bother us, there are many reasons why knees can bother us, but one of the reasons is as once we shift off the chair, right? And when we stand up, we want to pay attention and make sure that we're not tucking our pelvis, right? If we tuck our pelvis and then go to sit down like that, that actually puts more pressure against the knees. So when I'm sitting down, I'm imagining I have like little bullseyes right on the back of my buttocks. And I want those bullseyes to stick directly behind me. I don't want to feel those bullseyes getting curled underneath me, right? I want those to shoot straight backwards. Let's do a few more. Working with this challenging close proximity foot position, which might generate a little sense of wobble. And so you just breathe and you work through that. Let's do two more. Taking it nice and slow, shifting off the chair, finding our balance, pressing all the way up to stand, letting your knees have a little bit of space between them. Coming down, 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 finding that chair. We'll do that one more time. Tilting forward. Good muscle tone in that low to mid abdomen area. And then coming all the way back down. Yeah, very good. Ooh, great. And shake out your feet while you're sitting, hopefully. Nice. Now, let's take the feet wider than hips distance. So a little bit wider than hips distance. Okay. Starting with the feet in parallel. And then what we're going to do is adjust so that our feet and our knees are turned outward slightly. So feet and knees, right? And what you want to make sure is that your knees are aiming right over the middle of your feet. Now, how do you do that with your knees? That comes from your hips, right? That's a function of the muscles that twist your thigh bones. So we're going to feel some of this sort of twisting of the thigh bones a little bit when we sit and stand. Now, don't turn your feet out too far, right? Just a little bit, and knees track over feet. Okay, so we're going to try this wider stance. Again, with our arms right down along the seam of the shirt, palms facing backwards, shifting off the chair, and then rising up. And as you rise up, imagine engaging your inner thighs and pulling your legs together, and then slowly let that go. Find your seat and come back down. I had my feet a little too far forward, so I'm going to change that. Okay. So when you're standing up, you're not tucking your pelvis under, but you are sort of trying to turn your thigh bones away from center. So that's called external rotation. It feels as like you're trying to twist your legs so that your heels move forwards. And then slowly let that muscular effort dissipate to sit back down again, right? So there's different ways to experience this. You could think about it from your heels. You're twisting your legs to push your heels forward. Or you could feel that as something that you're doing in your thigh. It's still all happening in the same place. It's coming from muscles in your butt system, in your glute system. So if you're feeling something in your glutes and around your hips, you're right on track. And then we'll go back down and we'll do that 2 more times. So, not necessarily a balance challenge, but a coordination challenge to work those external rotators. And then coming back down. And we'll do that 1 more time, strengthening not just the muscles of standing, but external rotation, getting into the glutes, and then coming all the way back down to that comfy chair. And you can just sit and shake out your feet. Okay, now I'm going to stay sitting sideways so that you can see this. So we're going to switch to a completely different body part while we're sitting in the chair. We're going to shift to a movement to loosen up our shoulders before we go down to the floor. So, doing what you can without hurting yourself, see if you can put one hand behind your back. And what I'm doing is I'm just resting the back of my hand in this area behind my pelvis where my spine is. That's my sacrum right there, right in the middle of right between the two halves of my pelvis. So I'm just resting the back of my hand and placing the back of my hand right there. Okay. So hopefully you can do that without too much difficulty. And then what I want you to do is to tone your abdominals, okay? And keeping your hand behind your back, I want you to see if you can start to produce a shoulder circle and take it slow. And what I would encourage you to investigate and work through is any part of the circle that feels really sticky and that you're having trouble with. So, in general, when you're circling your shoulder backwards, you're working a muscle system that extends from the spine to the shoulder joint. So you want to feel the work extending all the way from the spine to the shoulder joint, or from the shoulder joint to the spine. And getting that shoulder to go back. Let's try one more and then relax that effort. Okay, I'm going to turn myself around. Actually, I think I'll turn myself to face forward for this because you've seen it from the side. So I'm sort of sitting mid-seat. I'm not all the way back because I don't want the movement to crash into the back of my chair. But I do want, so once I sit here and I have my other hand behind my back, kind of resting, not quite in the small of my back, although you could rest your hand there if that's comfortable for you, but that takes some flexibility. Okay. So just this position requires flexibility in the front of the shoulder. And then we engage the abdominals so that we don't accidentally hyperextend the low back. And now we're going to focus on trying to develop a shoulder circle with our arm in this constrained position, hand against your back, back of your hand against your sacrum, and you're working a muscle system that runs from the spine to the shoulder joint. And we're just going to work those backward circles and try not to take your hand away from your body. That's the constraint. And let's do a couple more. And then let that arm relax. Okay. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do might be might be too much. Let's just see what this is like. Can you sit on your chair backwards? Can everybody do that? I don't think, I mean, hopefully your inner thighs have, that much yield. Shouldn't be. Yeah, you might be like, "Ooh, a little bit like riding a pony, but not too bad." Oh, that's a big chair, Jean. Hopefully that works for you. Can you do Can you do it? Okay, yeah, you're there. That's good. Okay. I know, I cheat. I have a little chair. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're sitting backwards purposefully because what I want you to do is to place your hands on the back of the chair and try not to let go of the chair when you do this, right? Your arms certainly, your chair is not so large that your arms are like this, right? When you hold on to the back of your chair, your arm is pretty relaxed. So you've got like the ability to change your arm length when you're sitting here. Okay. So what we're going to try to do sitting here with our hands on the chair is we're going to try to bring our shoulder blades all the way together. Okay. And so you want to think about your shoulder blades. If you think about your shoulder blades on your back, right? They're kind of just sitting out here like this, okay? And they're think about them as being maybe the size of your hand. That's a nice way to think about them. And when you draw them together, you don't want to draw them together at the top and make them go up. You want to draw them together so they feel like they're coming together like a set of elevator doors closing. And in order for you to accomplish that, when you draw them together, you're actually going to need to emphasize more the feeling of drawing them together and slightly down. Because otherwise, what's going to happen is they're going to come together at the top and go up towards your neck. And that's something that we don't want to do. So you have to focus on together and down as an effort. Okay. And the muscles that you have available for this run from your spine to your shoulder blades, and also another set of muscles that run from your spine to your shoulder joints, right? So your shoulder joints move with your shoulder blades, they move together. Okay. So sitting in the chair with your hands on the back of the chair, right? A good abdominal muscle tone. We're going to focus on drawing the shoulder blades together and slightly down the back, and then releasing that, right? So your abdominal muscle tone is critical because when you draw your shoulder blades together and down, it's going to move your chest forward and extend your thoracic spinal column. And so sometimes if you watch someone do this, you could misinterpret what's happening in my body as, oh, she's arching her back. Nope, I'm not using my spinal muscles to do this, right? This change is coming from the effort of bringing my shoulder blades together and down. And that causes my whole thorax, my chest, to move forwards and up, right? Not because I'm doing it from my spine, but because of what I'm doing behind my chest. So very firm on the lower abdominals and then holding onto the chair. Bring those shoulder blades together and down. Relax that. Let's do that a few more times. Right. I work with this with all my clients in their private lessons, and everybody struggles in the beginning because it's not an action that we do usually that we do regularly or correctly. And so there's a little bit of muscular amnesia that you might experience to get this right. You're not pushing your arms against your body. You're contracting between the shoulder blades, and you're also contracting across the shoulder blades. Let's do another, and then relax that effort. Okay, now let's come off of our chair, and we're going to do a little cat cow movement using the chair. Okay. Now, it just so happens that proportionately, my chair just so happens to be perfect for my body in terms of being basically like the equivalent of what I would be if I were on my hands and knees on the floor, right? Your chair might not be exactly right for this. So if you have to soften your knees a little bit, then go ahead and do that in order to start with a flat back. Okay. And so with your hands on the chair and your knees either slightly flexed or your legs straight, whatever works for you, we're going to cat cow, flexing and extending the spine. So we start in neutral and then we're going to flex the spine. So we're using the abdominals to curl and round our spine. And we're using our chest muscles, contracting our chest muscles against our sternum to pull the shoulder blades wide. And then coming back to neutral, as we do the extension, the cow, we draw the shoulder blades down the back and together. And then we come back to neutral. So abdominals introduce that pelvic tilt and spinal flexion, and we squeeze our chest muscles against each other to separate the shoulder blades. And then we come back to neutral, engaging the muscles along the spinal column, pulling the shoulder blades together and down, and back to neutral. So cat cow is not only abdominal muscles, back muscles, or spinal muscles, it's also chest muscles and back shoulder muscles. So, spinal muscles, back shoulder muscles in the cow. Let's do one more round. Abdominal and chest muscles in the cat, coming to neutral, spinal muscles and shoulder blade muscles on the cow, and then coming back to neutral. Let's come up and just shake everything out, loosen yourself up a little bit, and we can put those chairs off to the side for the duration and get ourselves ready to come down onto the floor. So let me just set my camera a little bit lower. So just take a second here to lower it down. That looks pretty good. I can bring it in a little bit closer. Perfect. Okay, there we go. And then coming down onto the ground, let's grab one yoga block and come onto our back, feet flat on the mat. Right. And when you come down here onto your mat, you can practice that technique that we learned when we were doing the standing about setting your feet hips distance apart. So when you're on your back and your feet are flat, bring your feet close to each other so they make contact, and then turn your toes out, turn your heels out to align with your toes, and that's about hips distance. That should get your legs pretty close to parallel with each other. And then let's go ahead and slip the block in between those legs. Okay. Now, we're going to do a couple of different variations with our shoulder bridge. So the first three shoulder bridges that we're going to do, we'll have our arms in the most traditional position, which is alongside the body. Okay. So your arms are alongside your body, your fingers are long, your palms are down. Okay. And I want you to just gently bring your shoulders back, but don't pinch your arms against the sides of your body. So just a little bit of work to bring the shoulders back. The back of your neck is nicely elongated. And let's do 3 bridges with our arms in this position. So with the exhale, we'll begin to lift the tailbone and the pelvis and moving up through the spine, bringing those glutes together, taking a breath, and then slowly releasing the spine with control, coming all the way back down. So we'll do 2 more like that, starting with the tailbone, rising up. And as your pelvis lifts, keep bringing those buttocks together, not tucking them under, but bring them together. And then slowly lower all the way back down. Right? And of course, if you have any issue with your knee, just make a slight change to your foot position, closer further, to see if that helps to alleviate tension in the knees. But it's also worth noting that when we're bridging, we're really stretching the muscle tissue that goes from the thigh and over the knee. So it's not unusual for you to feel tightness in the knee, on the front of the knee when we do this. So that was the third with the first arm position. The second arm position, I'd like you to hold your arms up into the air with them rotated so that your palms face towards each other, your arms positioned as close to parallel as possible. And we're going to do 3 bridges with our arms held in this position. So again, squeezing the block, activating those inner thighs, bringing the glutes together to kind of minimize the distance between the buttocks, and then slowly lowering back down. And let's do 2 more in this arm position, engaging those inner thighs, bringing the glutes together to reduce the space between the buttocks when we're in the bridge, and then lowering back down. And we'll do that 1 more time. Coming up, using our muscles to press ourselves up, and then lower ourselves all the way back down. Now, for the third arm position, you have 2 options. You can go out to a T, right? So that's a possibility, especially if you have issues with having your arms up higher. So you would do the third 3 bridges like this, or from this position, you can turn your arms so your palms face forward and make a V with your arms so they're up higher. They're not parallel, they're in a V, but you could also work this arm position. So choose the final arm position that works the best for your shoulders. And then whichever that one is, we'll do 3 more bridges. So we're coming up into that bridge, rising up, and then lowering all the way back down. And if you're able to do the version that I'm doing with your arms up in a V, when you lower your spine back down from the bridge, think about lowering back down to create a feeling of lengthening away from your arms. So you actually feel more elongated and more stretched through your biceps and your armpits when you're coming back down. Let's do that 1 more time. Rising up, pausing at the top, and then lowering all the way back down. And then wherever your arms are, you can bring them down, take that block out. Let's stay on our back. Extend the left leg with your foot flexed. Keep the right leg as it is. Take that left hand behind your head and your right arm straight out to the side. Now, if having your hand behind your head bothers your shoulder, fold your arm against the side of your head. But if it doesn't bother you, keep your arm out wide. Just don't let it hang on the floor. So just pick it up a little bit off the floor, but keep it out wide the whole time you're doing this chest curl with rotation. So we'll do 6, beginning on the exhale, lifting the head and curling forward, twisting to the right, keeping that arm wide if you've chosen that option, and then slowly lowering back down. Let's do 5 more. Curling forward and twisting, and back down. And notice that when we do this forward curl with a twist, notice what's happening in your right shoulder area, right? So your right arm is straight out on the floor. And as the body curls up and rotates, there's some change that's happening around that right shoulder. Let's do two more. And one more time. So what I'm feeling around my right shoulder is certain muscles are stretching as I'm curling up, especially the ones that run from my neck down towards my shoulder blade. Let's trade legs. So the right is straight and flexed, left is bent, foot flat on the floor. Left arm is straight out to the side. I have palm down. Right hand behind your head. Either fold your arm beside your head if that helps your shoulder, or have your arm out wide and stable. And we'll do 6. So on the exhale, we're curling forward. Keep that left hand glued down and then slowly come back down. So as we work the muscles that curl and twist us, we're also getting a little bit of stretch around the back of the left shoulder blade area. And let's do a few more. Exhale, curl and rotate in a way that makes it feel like you're opening up around the back of that left shoulder blade area. And let's do one more. Curling up and rotating. And all the way back down. Really, really nice. Let's roll over and come up onto our hands and knees or whatever variation of this position works for you. And if you're able to have the tops of those feet on the floor, let's go ahead and do that and give that area an opportunity to stretch. You don't have to sharply point your toes, but you might want to have a little bit of activation in your feet. And so we want to be strong in our upper body position. So we're working this kind of area of strength around the chest and armpit region so that we're not collapsing into our arms. So holding ourselves up. And then as balanced as you can, we're going to slide the right leg back and straighten it. And then bring the right knee back down. Slide the right leg back again and straighten. And coming back down with that knee one more time, sliding back and straightening the leg. Notice how when you straighten your leg, there's this potential that let's go left leg, there's this potential that your back could collapse. So your abdominals have to be lifted and held in. And then we place that left knee down, two more, sliding back, extending, feel your glute working. And one more time, sliding back, extending the leg, and coming all the way back down. Now let's lower all the way down onto our abdomen. And I'm going to leave myself some room out in front of my mat. Okay. So we're coming out onto our abdomen. And let's grab a yoga block. Let's grab a yoga block. And let's put the yoga block on the floor so that our forehead is on the block. Now, it's not a comfortable pillow, right? And so there's going to be a little bit of work that you need to do in your back musculature so that your head doesn't feel like a bowling ball pressing down on top of that block. So you get a little bit of support, but not 100% support. So, with your feet on the ground, your legs toned, I want you to close the distance between your buttocks. So you're not tightening your buttocks against the backs of your thighs. You're tightening your buttocks towards each other, okay? And then your arms are flexed and in the same position as mine, but I don't have any weight in my arms. I'm using my back musculature to support myself. And what we're going to do, I've got my hands and elbows purposefully right off the side of my sticky mat. And what we're going to do is slide the right hand across the floor forward until the elbow straightens by engaging that tricep on the back of your right arm. And then elbow on the mat, elbow on the floor, slide your arm all the way down as far as you can without picking up your elbow. And really feel how that shoulder joint moves away from your right ear and stretches the right side of your neck. And then let your hand and arm come back to neutral. So you're sliding your left hand forward, tightening against the back of your upper arm, and then slide your elbow across the floor and go past neutral. Pull the shoulder down away from your ear, and then come back to a neutral position. So we slide forward. That's kind of the easy part. Then we slide the elbow on the floor. We keep going down, 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 down. We pull that shoulder joint away from the ear and then come to neutral. Slide the left arm forward. Slide the elbow across the floor, pulling that shoulder joint down, 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 and then neutral. Let's do one more. Sliding forward. Sliding the elbow on the ground, down, down, pull that shoulder joint down away from your ear, and then neutral, sliding up, elbow on the ground, sliding down, 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 down. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Pull that shoulder joint away from your ear, and then back to neutral. And let's pick up our head and we'll turn all the way over and come on to our back. Come on to your back. Whew, that's a lot of work. Okay. Now, laying on your back, we're going to do a similar movement, but with our arms on the floor. Okay. And not on the mat, but take your arms out a little wider. So your arms are not in a T, they're in a V, but this V is going down and not up. Okay. And what I want you to do in this V is to have your arms in this position, but we're going to work on pulling our shoulder blades down. Okay, so by down, I mean away from the head and towards the pelvis. Okay, so your arms are not alongside your body, but they're slightly wider. Okay, and I want you to start with your right shoulder blade and pull your right shoulder blade down, right? Pull it down. And notice that when you pull your shoulder blade down, it almost contorts you a little bit. It kind of makes your neck feel like it wants to bend a little bit. It makes your spine feel like it wants to do a little bit of a side bend when you pull your shoulder blade down, and then relax back to neutral. Let's try that with the left. So pull your left shoulder blade down. Again, notice how that sort of contorts you a little bit, that effort, and then come back to neutral. Now, get your core muscles, your transversus muscles, a little bit better toned to start, and try it again with the right shoulder blade. With better core tone, pull that right shoulder blade down and then release. Notice that you contorted less. Right? With good muscle tone in your core, pull your left shoulder blade down. And you might be thinking, Jenny, I don't even know how to do that. I don't even know where to begin to pull my shoulder blade down. So I'll help you. Start with the muscles in your armpit, right? Because in your armpit is, if you move one arm out of the way and you stick your fingers into your armpit and you kind of push towards the back of your armpit, that's your shoulder blade that you're touching right there. That's your shoulder blade. So you have muscles that run along your ribs, like starting in your armpit and kind of going downwards. You have a muscle that's attaching here, and then it also attaches to your shoulder blade, right? So, with your core nicely toned and your arms out, engage from your armpit to pull your shoulder blade down. And then try the other one. Engage from your armpit to pull your shoulder blade down. Don't be dismayed if you're having a hard time finding it, right? Keep your core nicely toned, sense your armpit, and pull your shoulder blade down. Sense your armpit and pull your shoulder blade down. Just keep practicing. It will happen. Eventually, it will be like a light bulb going off. You'll go, oh, I can feel something. I feel something moving. You also have some muscles on your back that you can use to help pull your shoulder blade down. So it's something in your armpit and something in your back. That's why your core needs to be nicely toned because that's going to cause your spine to want to bend a little bit and then relax that effort. Now, let's turn onto our sides. And when we turn onto our side, we're going to be in a position where we're on our bottom arm, like so, right? So you have weight in your forearm, and your bottom leg is flexed, okay? And your top leg is straight, okay? So now in this position, engage your transversus abdominis, your core muscles, but also pull your shoulder blade down, right? So you need to be able to activate that feeling of work in your armpit that slightly relates to your ribs and also around your back. And that's what stabilizes your shoulder in this position. Now, this bottom leg, I want you to bend this knee so your bottom foot is closer to your top leg. That's a better position for you to be in. And then flex this top foot. I need my arm to be out a little more. So what we're going to do is lift. Okay. So we have this strong contraction in our armpit. And then we're going to lift this bottom hip off of the ground. So we're going to use our core muscles and our leg muscles to do this, to pick up that bottom hip and put pressure into the top hip as we lift. So you feel that shift in your pelvis and then lower back down. Okay. So we're using our core and the muscles of our legs and hips. And as we lift, the bottom hip is moving away from the ground and pressing into that hip. So the pressure that you feel in this hip is coming from your pelvis shifting away from the ground and towards the ceiling. And then let's lower all the way down and try that on the other side. We're going to do it twice, so don't fret if you didn't figure it out the first time. Top leg is straight, bottom leg is bent, and the bottom leg is not in tabletop. The bottom leg is positioned so your bottom foot is closer to where your top leg is. Okay. We've got a contraction in the armpit and the side of the body that stabilizes this shoulder position. Okay. And then we're going to shift our awareness to our core and the muscles that surround our hips. Okay. And figure out how to raise that bottom hip off of the ground and kind of move the pelvis from one side to the other and then lower back down. Let's play with that. So, shoulder stability, lateral hip mobility, and strength. One more time. A lot easier for me on this side than it was on the first side. And that's because I know my body and I know that I am tighter on this side. So when I'm doing it the other way, I have a lot of tension that prevents me from feeling like I'm moving nicely in that direction. So that's just what it feels like for me. So we're going to do it a second time. Top leg is straight, bottom leg is flexed. Your bottom foot is kind of in the vicinity of your top leg. Okay. You've got your bottom arm positioned well so that you can bear some of your weight onto that arm. That's why we've got to have that shoulder stability. And then we're trying to figure out this kind of strange way of using our muscles to shift our pelvis from left to right or right to left, depending upon what side you're on. And then coming back down again with control. Ooh, I just got a nice little crack. I mean, a good crack, not a bad crack in my somewhere in my low back. Something just released. Yay. One more time. And I didn't even mention it because there's so many things to say here. But this arm that's arcing over, right? Those shoulder stabilizing muscles are just nice and free. And so that movement of bringing your arm over in an arc, you don't want there to be any binding or holding in this area. So that just should move nice and free. So there's real contrast between what's going on in the supporting arm in that area and what's going on in the arcing arm in that area. So let's do it one more time on the second side. Setting it all up. Top leg is straight, bottom leg is flexed. Good position for that supporting arm, good contraction in those shoulder stabilizers. And then let's shift the pelvis from one side to the other and come back down. And we'll do that twice more. Shifting and one more time. And all the way back down. Great. Now, let's go back to the first side, but this time let's come all the way down onto the mat, laying on our side. Now, if it's not possible for you to lay the way that I'm laying, where I've got my bottom arm extended upwards, then you change that. You could have your bottom arm more forward. You could put a yoga block here for your head. So you do what you need to do for yourself to be in this position. Now, you may find it helpful to have a yoga block or a second block in front of you when we do the side raising. Okay. And the cool thing about what we do with this top hand is we're still going to work this same muscular area as part of this whole lateral effort to bring the body up away from the floor in a curve, not a straight line. I mean, the legs obviously are going to be in a straight line because legs don't curve, hopefully. But spines curve, right? You can bend your spine and rib cage sideways. So here we go. We'll do four of these. Legs together. We're going to press into the block and curve sideways, not forwards, not backwards, but sideways. And then lower back down to straight-ish. And then curving. Feel how your new friends, those armpit to side muscles, help to draw your shoulder away from your ear as you press on the block. And they improve your ability to engage your obliques. And then lowering all the way back down. Let's do four of those on the second side. So let's switch over. Right. Again, modifying this position to make sense for your body so that you're not struggling, you're not feeling pain or discomfort to be on your side. And then using a block in front of you so that you can have your hand placed here and you can use those what are called shoulder depressors, the muscles that pull the shoulder down, right? When we do the side bending. So here we go. We're doing four. We are legs together. We're curving the spine as we lift up a little pressure in the block. Engage that armpit to bring the shoulder away from the ear. So that's part of the movement, drawing the shoulder down. So your shoulder and your hip joint are closer to each other. And let's do two more. Bending sideways and lowering down, and we'll do one more. And enjoying that nice stretch on the opposite side of your body. And then lowering all the way back down. Great. So let's go ahead and set the block off to the side. And let's find, I'm going to just reposition my mat here. Let's grab our straps for doing a twisting stretch. So if you want a pillow for this, you're welcome to have a pillow, whatever feels comfortable for you. And we're going to go ahead and put our right foot into the strap to start. So just lasso that right foot, left leg on the ground. Okay. And I don't want you to strain the muscles on the back of your legs. So once you've lassoed your right foot and your right leg is straight, make sure that you're not forcing the leg up towards vertical too much, right? So you could feel a little bit of stretch in the back of your leg, but not so much that you're having a difficult time. I don't want your legs shaking when you're in this position, okay? And then let's hold the strap with our left hand. Take the right arm out to the side, look straight up towards the ceiling, and let's flex the left foot and press straight out through the heel, not down into the floor, but straight out, like you're just right along the floor, out the heel and towards the other side of the room. As you begin to rotate your right leg in the hip socket, bringing it slowly over the midline. Then allow the pelvis to start to rotate with the leg. Allow the spine to rotate with the pelvis, looking straight up at the ceiling. Keep allowing your spine to turn. You're turning so much that your right shoulder blade may have come up off of the ground, which is completely fine. You don't need to fight that. Press down, maybe even readjust so your bottom leg, your left leg, is nice and straight, and you're pressing down through that leg, looking straight up at the ceiling. Enjoying that big stretch for your right hip and buttock, and maybe your right chest and arm. Let's take a couple more breaths in this position. One more deep breath in. And on the exhale, we'll come all the way back out of that twist and take the right foot out of the strap. And then let's do the other side. So left foot in the strap, right leg straight on the floor, holding the strap with your right hand, your left arm out onto the ground. Flex your right foot so you're pressing straight out through the heel, not pushing down with your foot, but pressing out with your foot. Begin to turn your left leg in the hip socket. And when the muscles run out of stretch in that direction, allow the pelvis to begin to rotate. Allow the spine to begin to rotate. Look straight up at the ceiling. Keep allowing your torso to turn. Torso's turning away from your left arm. So we're feeling some stretch in that left hip, left glute, left chest, perhaps left arm. And let's just hold that, straightening out that right leg a little bit more to improve that feeling of spiral. Now, I'll tell you, I'm not a huge fan of trying to force that left shoulder down, because forcing anything, I mean, how could that possibly be helpful for our bodies, right? So I would not worry about what's happening to your left shoulder at all, unless it's hurting you. Then I would do something to change that. I bet you're feeling a nice sense of stretch without worrying about what's going on with your left shoulder. Take a big breath in, and on your exhale, let's come all the way back out of that. And then we can flex that leg and remove the foot from the strap. Really nice. If you want to give yourself a knee to chest hug, you could go ahead and do that. And I'm going to take care of ending the recording for folks that need that for later.